So, good evening, everyone. Today we are going to start with our new chapter, that is biodiversity. So, before starting the chapter, just let me know I am audible and visible to you or not through this poll. Okay, so everything is clear. Now we are going to start with our today's chapter, that is biodiversity. Okay, so before starting the chapter, I just want to know. Let's take your knowledge about the previous chapter. So, what is the feature of the biosphere? What is the feature of the biosphere? The biosphere is having some feature. Okay, so according to you, what is the feature of biosphere? Your options are A, low diversity, B, ecological diversity, C, negligible diversity, and D, no diversity. So here is your poll. You can give your answer through this poll. So what is the feature of biodiversity? Okay, great. So, as everyone has given the answer is biological diversity. Yeah, that is the correct answer. Because, as you know, the diversity or the biosphere is made up of so many types of organisms. It is containing the biotic community, that is the living organism, and those living organisms has varieties of organisms, or we can say it includes animals, plants, microorganisms, and as you know, it has so many types of species present over the earth. So we can say that the feature of the biodiversity is a ecological diversity. Okay, we cannot say the diversity is very low, it is negligible, or there is no diversity, because we know there are varieties of species are found over there. So today we are going to discuss about the type of diversities, the species and area relation, and the river popper hypothesis. Okay, so let's start our class with the full Josh. Okay, so starting with the biodiversity's definition. So as you know, the biodiversity is the vast array of species. It is containing a huge variety of species of all the living organisms. Basically, the species of the biotic component, right? It contains the species of all the biotic components, which includes our microorganisms, plants, and animals. And apart from that, we also includes the algae and the fungi, which are also forming a one kingdom. Okay, so the biodiversity is what? It is an array. It is a combination of several species of different types of organisms, right? So the term biodiversity was introduced by an American biologist. Yes, it was introduced by the American biologist, that was Edward Wilson. Edward Wilson was the one who popularized this term biodiversity. So this is very important for you to know and learn that Edward Wilson was the first naturalist, or we can say the biologist, or who introduced and make the biodiversity term popularized. Okay, so then you have a question. So you know now the biodiversity is containing so many species. Biosphere is having so many species of different living organisms. So according to that, what is the feature of biodiversity? According to that, what is the feature of biodiversity? Your options are: option A says no diversity, homogeneity, heterogeneity, and negligible diversity. So, what is the answer for the question? What is the feature of the biosphere? A, no diversity, B, homogeneity, C, heterogeneity, and D, negligible diversity. Okay, so let's see this. As you can see, no diversity is nowhere, because we have seen as the earth formed and after the formation of earth, we have seen so many diversity. The diversity and evolution was there. The B some term says homogeneity. That means each and every organism is of same type, which is not true. With the each and every organism which is present in the biosphere is not of the same type. Okay, they have the different genetic makeup, so they are not homogenetic. The D option says the negligible diversity, which is also not true. We have a good diversity in a biosphere. So the answer remain is the heterogeneity, that the organisms which are present here, okay, present in the biosphere, having the different gene makeup, and they are belonging to the different groups. Okay, so the feature of the biosphere here is only the heterogeneity. Okay, is it clear to everyone? Okay, so great. Let's move to the another, the levels of biodiversity. So as we know, the biodiversity can be seen, or we can say the diversity, that is variation, can be seen at different level. Okay, it can be seen from macromolecular level to the species level, or we can say the population level. Okay, the diversity, that is the variation. Okay, the variations can be seen from the very small, that is macromolecular level, to the individual, or we can say the population level. Okay, so we have a huge diversity. Now this diversity is divided or categorized into the three basic forms, or we have made the three groups of this diversity. So starting with the first, the genetic diversity. The genetic diversity. So as the term says genetic, that means something related with the genes or the hereditary material, right? So we can say that the variation in genes is seen. Now we are the humans. Each and every individual in a human population also have so many varieties. Like we do not have the same size of nose, we do not have the same size of limbs, we also do not have the same color of skin, right? We have the different texture of hair. So all this is belonging to what? Genes. So we can say we have a very minute, that is the smallest variation which we can found is in the genes. So each and every individual found in the biosphere has a different genetic makeup. Okay, apart from those who are reproducing asexually. Then we are moving to the species diversity. Okay, here you can see there are plants, or we can say the trees are here, but all the trees are belonging to a specific species, right? We have so many types of trees. So here the diversity is belonging to the types of species. We have variation from one species to another. You can see there, for example, this is a mango tree. So this mango tree is different from this canopy tree, right? So we have the difference, the shape, the size, and the region where these plants are growing or these trees are growing is also different. So we have the diversity at the species level also. Now we are moving towards the ecosystem. The biosphere, or we can say our earth itself, has so many types of ecosystem. It can be a grassland, right? It can be a grassland, a desert, pond, lake, mountain, right? Mountain area, the forest region. We have so many varieties of the ecosystem. So, as I said, this diversity is not a small thing. This diversity or variation is found from the smallest molecule, that is the macromolecule, to the ecosystem level. Okay, so this variation is starting from a very minute object and leads to a very huge ecosystem. Okay, is this clear to everyone? Okay, great. Now we are moving towards the explanation, the deep explanation of these types of diversity. So first we have the genetic diversity. As I have already told you, the all living forms have their genetic makeup. Each and every organism has its own gene makeup. They have the nucleic acid, they have their own DNA and RNA. If we are talking about the living organism, all living organisms have their genetic material. Either it can be DNA or the RNA. And the smallest segment of the DNA, which is coding for a particular specific character, is known as gene. So we have seen there are so many variations found at the gene level. Okay, and these genes, if are present in a contrasting form, if the pair of gene having the contrasting character, then they are known as allele. Okay, so genetic diversity is found at the genetic level. The variety, the variation which is found at the genetic level is known as the genetic diversity. Okay, is it clear to everyone? Okay, so as you can see, the genetic diversity can be observed in two different areas, among the population and within the population. Please understand this term first. Among the population, that means we are talking about two or more species. Okay, here we are talking about the two or more species. And when we are saying about within the population, that means we are talking about only the just one species, the individuals of one species. Okay, now understand it how this genetic diversity is seen among the population. That means we are comparing more than two types of species here. So as the number of species increases, okay, as the number of species increases, the mutations are found. Okay, we have a large amount of mutation. This is very a normal thing which we have already studied. So the large population has the large number of variation, which we have studied in the evolution chapter, right? If the population is large, then the variations are going to be in a large amount. Okay, this mutation also leads to the genetic drift. Okay, the genetic diversity leads when there is a genetic drift. That means if the one individual of a species moved into this area of another species, so it brings the genetic drift, then there is a natural selection. Okay, always the environment play its role, so there is a natural selection. Okay, so among the population, as the mutation, genetic drift, and this natural selection keep on increasing, the gene flow always decreases. Due to this natural selection, only the survivals exist, only the fittest one exists, so due to which the gene flow decreases. Okay, then the same thing occurs in an opposite manner in the within a population. That means within a particular group of individuals, right? So when the mutation and the gene flow increases within the population, then the natural selection, genetic drift, and inbreeding leads to its decrease. Okay, so we cannot find the genetic variation when there is inbreeding. Inbreeding, when the same species animals or the individuals are mating within their species, right? They are closely related species, so there are no huge variations are found. So the genetic diversity within the population can be decreased by the genetic drift, the natural selection, and the inbreeding. Okay, so these are the reasons why the genetic diversity increases among the population or within the 2 to 3 species. and why the genetic diversity decreases within a population, within a particular species. Okay, so here is your question now. What can a single species show? What can a single species show? Your question options are A, no variation at the genetic level, no diversity at the genetic level. Option C says low diversity at the genetic level, and option D says high diversity at the genetic level. Okay, now students, you can give your answer through this poll which I'm launching here. Okay, so your question is, what a single species show? What a single species show? So your option were A, no variation at the genetic level, no diversity at the genetic level, low diversity at the genetic level, and high diversity at the genetic level. So according to the topic which we have just discussed, so what you can say, a single species show. Okay, here we see single species, that is within the population. So within our population, the species always show the high diversity at the genetic level. There is a huge variation. Okay. Next, the topic is, or the next we are moving towards the second type of diversity, that is species diversity. That means here the variation is found at the species level. As you can see in this picture, there are frogs, but these frogs are of various species, and each and every frog has something different from one another, right? Each and every frog is having something different from one another. So this is known as the species diversity. Okay, and it can only be measured by the counting of the number of the organism. By counting the organism, we can easily measure this species diversity. And it is also said the existence of wide range of different types of organism and a particular place at a given time, the diversity of plant and animal life in a particular habitat. As we move from one place to another, or if we remain at the same place for a longer period of time, we can see a good variations, right? For this we can take an example of the earth, right? We can take the example of the earth. For example, this is our earth, this is the equator. Okay, now we are going to divide the earth on the basis of the latitude region. So these are the latitudes. Okay, as you know, these, the topmost region and the lowermost area of the earth is a polar region. It is a polar region. Let me change the color. Okay, this region is known as the temperate region. These regions are known as the temperate region, which is a low temperature region, whereas the region, let me take one another color for this. Now, the region nearest to the equator till the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn is known as Tropic region. Okay, so when we see at this, and when we look for the different places or the land pieces present in these region, we can see the tropic region has the least variation of what climate. So here we are, by the changing time period, they have seen a vast evolution, vast diversity in the species, okay, in a particular organism. Whereas the temperate region and the polar region have a very minute diversity in a species. Okay, so for the diversity of species, the land and the time, or we can say the place and the time, both matters a lot. Next, the third and the last type of diversity is the ecological diversity. Okay, the variation in both terrestrial and the ecosystems. Okay, the aquatic ecosystem. This ecological diversity shows the variations in both the terrestrial as well as the aquatic ecosystem. Now, here the variation takes place as a very complex level. Here the whole biological community get variations. Okay, the whole diversity. For example, if we are in a terrestrial region and if we are taking one aquatic region, for example, the grassland and the ocean. Okay, we have two ecosystems. The species of living organism which are found on the grassland, the species or the organism we can say which are found on the grassland, or the biotic communities found on the grassland, are completely different from all the all the biological communities which are found on the ocean. Okay, अब देखो land पे क्या क्या मिलेगा. Rabbit was there, rats were, rodents were there, cattle were there, right? So we have the different organism, different biological community for the land. But when we look for the ocean, the aquatic ecosystem, we have the different biological community. We cannot see the cattle and the rodents there. Instead, we have the fishes, the mollusks, the arthropods. Okay, there we found the Pisces, mollusks, arthropods there in a huge amount. Is it clear? So this ecological diversity includes the complexity of biological community, including the different niche, that is different places, and the number of and the other ecological processes. Okay, so there are three different types of diversity found within an ecological diversity. It can be alpha, it can be beta, and it can be gamma. Now see what is the difference between this alpha, beta, and gamma diversity. Alpha diversity is taking place within a same region. It is taking place within a same region and within a same type of species. When this individual of the same species have the interaction among themselves, right? There is a lot of competition. So it will lead to the competition among themselves, adjustment and interrelationship amongst the member of the same community. Then variations are limited. In alpha or biodiversity, we can see a very limited amount of variation because all of the organisms are surviving in the same place and they are living on the same we can say the nutrients and the soil resources, right? Then we have the beta one. This is for the alpha. The beta one biodiversity says the biodiversity which appears, the biodiversity which appears in the range of communities. When we are talking about community, we are talking about the more than two species. So due to the replacement of species, within the change in community or habitat, when a species changes its place from one to another, the change of the place of a one species also affects the number and the density of the another species. And also when the species changes its habitat, that habitat's environment also make the changes in the number of the individual of that particular species. Okay, so the replacement of species with a change in community habitat due to the presence of different microhabitat, niches, and difference in the environmental conditions. Next and the last, we have the gamma diversity. As you can say, this whole region contains the gamma diversity. That means this gamma diversity includes a wide range of geographical area, and it includes the range of communities. It is including the various species of organisms. Okay, and it is also defined as the diversity of the ecosystem, where there you can see some are living near the river, near the water source, and some are living far away from the water source. So according to their atmosphere, they have some adaptations, so which leads to the variation in these organisms. Okay, so we have the three types of ecological diversity, that is alpha, beta, and gamma. The alpha diversity is taking place within a population, beta diversity is between the two community, and the gamma diversity is taking place within the whole geographical region. Okay. So now, as you can see, we have varieties. Okay. So when we go according to the NCRT, the invertebrates, in the invertebrates, we have the large number of insects. So on the first level, we have insects. Then we have the another animal group. Apart from that, we have the mollusk. The largest kingdom is the arthropod, and in arthropod we have insects most. The third is for the crustaceans. So if we go for the invertebrates, this is the number of species which are found in a biodiversity. And when we go for the vertebrates, the first number is for the fishes. The fishes has a wide range of the species. Then we have the birds. Then we have the mammals and the reptiles. Then we got the amphibians, or we can say the number of reptiles, amphibians, and mammals are not varying. They are almost equal to one another. Then when we go for the plants, in the plants, the number of angiosperms and gymnosperm, the species of angiosperms and the fungi, sorry, not the gymnosperm, the fungi is almost equal. The number of the ferns and the mosses are equal. Though the second place is given to the algae, the third place is given to the mosses and fern, and the fourth place is given to the lichen. So this is the proportion or the number of the species found in these major taxa. So what we have compared? We have compared here three different textures: the invertebrates, the vertebrates, and the plants. For invertebrates, we have the higher population of insects, then mollusks, and then crustaceans, whereas in vertebrate taxa, we have the most fishes, then birds, and then the mammals, amphibians, and reptiles are present almost equal to the one another. The species numbers are almost equal. But in a plant, the fungi and the angiosperm, the number of species of fungi and angiosperm are equal. Then we have the algae. Then the mosses and ferns again have the equal number of species, and the last one is lichen. The less number of species are found for the lichen. Okay, is it clear? Okay, so very good. Now we are moving towards the next. So your question here is, because the diversity which is shown here is given by the IUCN. IUCN says that till now on Earth, we have identified 1.5 million of the species. Till now, we have identified the 1.5 million species. Okay. So this IUCN stand for, I hope you know, you have already done this. You have already heard about this organization. So your options are: option A, the International Union for Control of Disease; the International Union for Conservation of Nature; the international unit of nucleic acid, and D option says the international unit of the carbohydrate and nucleic acid. You can give your answer through this poll that IUCN stand for which. The full form of the IUCN is, if you are unable to give the answer in poll, you can give in the chat box. What is the full form of IUCN? Okay, so you have given a correct answer that IUCN stands for the International Union for Conservation of Nature. The International Union for Conservation of Nature. And this gave us the approx estimate which we have done for our atmosphere. Now we have some biological diversities in tropics. So it says the various hypotheses came over and this shows the diversity, the major amount of diversity, or we can say the large variations are found only in the tropical region. Okay, and this hypotheses are given by the ecologists and evolutionary biologists. The first they says the temperate region have undergone frequent glaciation in the past time, right? The ice age was there, which killed most the species, due to which most of the species got extinct. But the tropical latitude have remained relatively undisturbed. As I told you, the temperature, the condition, the climatic conditions are not so variable in the tropical region. That is from the Tropic of Capricorn to Tropic of Cancer, including the equator. So as we move far from the equator, the variations start appearing. But as we move closer towards the equator, the temperature and the climatic conditions remains the same, due to which we have seen a vast variety of the diversity. Okay, then the third says the tropical environment. The tropical environments are less seasonal, which promotes the niche specialization and lead to greater species diversity. For example, let's say we are looking for a house. Okay, we are looking for a house, and for that house we always go for a place where we can stay for a longer period, right? There we always look for the continuous supply of electricity, continuous supply of water, and the region where climate is suitable for us. So if the tropical environment is not changing, it is not having a vast variation in the climate or the weather, then what happens? This tropical environment give the shelter, or we can say it gives the habitat to the lot of species, because they do not have to migrate from one place to another with the changing climate, right? The climate is according to them, so they are staying there only. Okay, so when someone stays at a particular place, they always form the diversity. Then the third point says the more solar energy is available in the tropics, right? Because we are closer to the equator, and the equator receives the most and the large amount of sunlight. So if the solar energy is there, if we are getting the major source of energy there, the vegetation is found to be dense. There we have a denser vegetation, and this denser vegetation always produce or contribute to the higher productivity, which we have already discussed in the ecosystem chapter, right? So the producers are the ones who give the highest productivity. So if we have the maximum amount of sunlight, availability of sunlight, then the major amount of your producers are there, and the producers are there, then we automatically having the high productivity. So in turn might contribute to indirectly to the greater diversity. So the high amount or the good amount of plantation or the producer always attract the more dependent species. Okay, So next is we are the species area relation. Now we have moved to the most important thing, that is the species area relation, which is given by a German naturalist. The name of the naturalist is Alexander von Humboldt. Okay, the naturalist is the Alexander von Humboldt. He said he said that when he was roaming in a particular geographical region, as he moved deeper into a particular region, okay, deep inside the region, he keep on exploring the new diversity, new types of species there. So with the increasing depth of the area, he has seen the species richness. Okay, but this species richness was found to a particular limit. ओके हम एक रेंज तक जा रहे हैं हमें बहुत सारी स्पीशीज मिल रही है, अरे यहाँ पे घोड़े आ गए, अरे यहाँ पे शेर भी है, और यहाँ पे तो आपके गधे भी पल रहे हैं, ठीक है, सॉरी, बट यहाँ पे क्या है, बहुत सारी स्पीशीज है, वी हैव वेराइटीज ऑफ बर्ड्स हियर. If we are talking about the forest, we have varieties of birds there, varieties of plants there, and so many types of insects were there. But as we cross the forest region, जैसे ही हम फॉरेस्ट रीजन के दूसरी साइड पहुंचते हैं, then all the species keep on disappearing. ओके, उस लिमिट के बाद हमें नई नई स्पीशीज दिखना बंद हो जाती है. So he gave the species richness relation with the area. Okay, so he said this species area relation is represented by a rectangular hyperbola. This species area relation is represented by the rectangular hyperbola. Okay, so this is the rectangular hyperbola, which says the S is equals to CA raised to power Z. That means species richness is equals to the area raised to power the slope of the line and the y-intercept. Okay, but when we go for the logarithmic scale of this species area relation, then the relationship is straight line. Okay, the relationship is straight line where the log S is equals to log C plus Z into log A, the product of Z and log A. Okay, so the logarithmic scale give it a particular species. Now this is Z values varies. The Z value varies from 0.6 to 1, or it can vary from 1 to 2 depending to the region. Usually when the slope was low, if we have the small area, if we are looking for the species richness in a small area, obviously the diversity, the different types of community are not, and whatever community we are founding there of an organism is of very smaller size, or smaller in number, so the Z value is only 0.1 to 0.2. But when we go for the larger region, the slope become much steeper. The slope become much steeper because that steeping line shows, or the slopy line shows, the high amount of species there. So the intercept, the value of Z become 0.6 to 1.2. For example, the frugivorous birds, that means the birds who are fruit eating. Okay, the fruit eating birds and mammals in the tropical forests of different continents. See, as you know, the tropical region has the constant temperature, the constant climatic condition, due to which it has the vast or the dense vegetation. And this dense vegetation leads to the attraction of so many birds and animals. So all the birds and animals who are having the fruit eating habits, or they are completely dependent on the plant, they are majorly found in the tropical forest region. Okay, they can be majorly found in the tropical region forest. For that, that is why the Z value has increased to 1.12. Okay, जैसे जैसे हम ट्रॉपिकल रीजन की तरफ जाएंगे और नियर द इको कांस्टेंट एक क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन की तरफ जाएंगे, फॉर एग्जाम्पल टूवर्ड्स द इक्वेटर, जहां पर हमें ज्यादा वेरिएशन देखने के लिए नहीं मिलती इन द क्लाइमेट, देयर वी ऑलवेज सी अ वाइड रेंज ऑफ स्पीशीज. अब जब वहां पे वाइड रेंज ऑफ स्पीशीज होंगी, देन द स्लोप बिकम मच स्टीपर. ओके, so here is the importance of species diversity, which was given by the David Tillman. Okay, the importance of species diversity is given by the David Tillman. He plots with more species so less year to year variation in total mass. He says the more species shows when we move year to year with the changing time, we get the wide variety of the species, and the increased diversity always contributes to the higher productivity. Okay, always leads to the higher productivity, and it is essential for the ecosystem health and survival of human race. So when we have the good productivity, when we have the dense vegetation, when we have the variety of species, then the interdependence of one species to another increases. Okay, for example, if one species is dependent for the food habits on the other 5 different species, right, and out of this 5 different species one disappears, one get extinct, then still 4 are there, right? The 4 will be remaining there, which provide the stability to the rest or that particular species, which we have compared in a food chain and the food web. That food web always provides the alternative to the one species or one organism. Okay, then we are moving towards the Rivert Popper hypothesis. The Rivert Popper hypothesis, okay, it is giving an aeroplane. It is taking aeroplane as an example for the ecosystem. Okay, so in an aeroplane, that is an ecosystem, all parts are joined together using many rivets, that is species. एक स्पीशीज को, एक इकोसिस्टम को जोड़े रखने के लिए, ओके, to combine an ecosystem we require different types of species, right? So there you can see the food web is only stable because there are varieties of species, and one species is dependent on many of the species. Okay, there is a huge interlinked network. So if passenger pop a rivet, that means if one species get extinct, it may not affect the flight. Okay, if one species got affected, it may not anyone. For example, there we have a rose. Okay, you can see the rose. It is a food for 3 different organisms here. The butterfly is there, rabbit is there, beetle is there. Okay, if for example this beetle get disappeared, if this beetle get disappeared, the beetle was the we can say the food of this bat, but this food not completely depend, the bat was completely not dependent on that beetle, right? Or this, if the rose get disappear, the rabbit will not stay hungry, it will not starve to death, because there are another grasses were also present. Okay, so the disappearance or extinction of a single species does not affect the functioning of the ecosystem, but as more and more rivets are removed, if we keep on removing one to one and another, if we keep on removing the parts of the plane, right, then the species or the ecosystem start becoming weak. Because if more than one species start disappearing, or if more than one species get disappeared, the food will get completely unstabilized, right? So if the parts of the plant plane were removed, the plane become dangerously weak. Okay, so loss of the rivet on the wings. Basically अगर हम की एरिया को ही की स्पीशीज को ही हटा दें, so key species is producer. For us the key species is producer. अगर हम producer को ही हटा दें, extinct कर दें, then complete ecosystem किस में आ जाएगा? डेंजर में. बिकॉज the base of every tropical level, और हर एक फूड चेन का जो बेस होता है, हर एक इकोसिस्टम का जो बेस बनता है वो प्रोड्यूसर से ही बनता है. प्रोड्यूसर्स आर द वन who gave us the 100% productivity, who are the ones who start the transmission or the transfer of energy, right? So if the key species were that drive major ecosystem is more dangerous to flight safety than loss of a few rivets on the seat or the window inside the plane. भाई प्लेन में जो विंग्स हैं वो ज्यादा मेन है, ठीक है, दीज विंग्स आर मेन. आप उसके अंदर जो चेयर्स रखें, if you remove the nut and bolts of the chair inside the plane, nothing will happen, no much effect will take place to the plane. But if you start removing the parts of the wings of a plane, in that condition, the plane will become unstable. It will not be able to maintain its place in the atmosphere in that high height. Okay, due to which it loses its balance and it finally crashes. So this is what Rivet Popper said, that ecosystem is also like an aeroplane. Ecosystem भी एक प्लेन की तरह है. अगर हम थोड़ी सी ऑल्टरनेटिव स्पीशीज को हटा दें बीच बीच में से, ठीक है, इफ वी रिमूव द ऑल्टरनेटिव स्पीशीज, तो हमारे इकोसिस्टम पे ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. Okay, but if we remove the main species or the key species, that is our producer, right? अगर हम producers को ही हटा दें या saprophytes को ही हटा दें, because saprophytes are the one who are responsible for the recycling of the nutrients. You know, we always start with the inorganic matter in the starting of which are consumed by the producer, and after the death of the organism, when the decomposition takes place, the complex organic matter again becomes inorganic. So here what we are doing, we are also recycling the minerals. So if we remove the producer or the saprophytes, or we can say the decomposer, then the whole ecosystem get unbalanced. Okay, and it will lead not only to the danger to some another species, but also lead a danger to a particular ecosystem. Okay, so depending on that, your next question is, what happens to the species diversity as we move away from the equator towards the pole? So your question says, what happens as we move and we start moving from equator to polar region? For example, this is our earth. Okay, this is the equator. So as we move away from the equator towards pole, अगर हम पोल की तरफ जाते हैं तो जो स्पीशीज डाइवर्सिटी है उस पे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा? As you know, जो हमारा अर्थ है, that is due to the presence of latitude. It is differentiated into the different region. Okay, these are some major latitudes. This region was the tropic region. This region was the temperate region, right? As we are moving away from the equator, the temperature was keep on decreasing, and this is the at the top and the base of the earth. This is the polar region where the temperature is very low. So as we are moving upward, temperature here also decreasing. And if we are moving towards the south pole, temperature is also decreasing, right? So as we are moving away from the equator, there is a drastic change in the temperature, right? Also the geographical region. So what happens to the species diversity? Your options are A, it will increase. Option B says it will decreases. Option C says it will remain unchanged. And option D says it will remain the same. That means there is no species diversity will be observed. So according to you, what will be the answer? You can give your answer in a chat box or in a poll which I have launched. Okay. So if you understand the question, please let me know what is the answer. What is the answer for this question? What happens if we move away from the equator? That means as we are moving away, the temperature and the climatic conditions are also getting changed. So as we have already, okay, so everyone has given their answer. So as we have already seen, as we keep on moving from away from the equator, the species diversity keep on decreasing. We will see the less variety of species away from the equator, right? Okay. So this is all for today. We'll continue our class with a new topic tomorrow. And tomorrow we are supposedly going to complete this chapter. Okay. So before leaving the class, please give me your feedback through this NPS poll. And those who have taken the NPS poll can leave the class, and please keep on reading your NCRT to prepare a notes, and please keep on practicing the module questions, okay, so that it will help you to understand how much understanding you have of a topic and how much you need to work upon a particular topic, okay. Okay, so this is all for today. We'll meet tomorrow and start with a new topic with a new form of energy. Okay, so this is all for today. Thank you.